Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the first webinar in the Re-Prepare series. My name is Kiana Kabanji. I am the Disaster Preparedness Outreach Program Manager at Washington Emergency Management, and I will be your facilitator for this webinar today. Our team decided to title this webinar series Re-Prepare, and that's because preparedness is not a checkbox. It's not a one-time activity that once you do it, you're done. It's important to re-prepare. Preparedness is a repeating process. We need to review our hazards, revisit our plans, and restock our kits. So thank you for joining us today. We have a few housekeeping things to go over quickly. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on YouTube afterwards. The link for this recording will be in the Q&A box. Captions can be found by clicking on the settings icon in the lower right corner of your screen. We will have a question and answer period at the end of the presentations, and you can find the Q&A box by clicking in the upper right corner. There's a Q&A icon if the Q&A box didn't automatically open when you joined the webinar. Feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation, and again, like I said, we will have a Q&A period at the end. If you have any comments you'd like to offer as well, feel free to add those into the Q&A box. We will have a brief survey for you to take at the end of this webinar, and that's to let us know what you learned and what you thought of it. The link for that survey will be in the Q&A box throughout the presentation, so in case you need to leave early, please grab that link and let us know what you thought about the webinar. For everyone who completes the survey, you will be entered into a raffle for prizes. Prizes such as water filters and weather alert radios and a disaster starter kit. So we have prizes for you, and we would like to hear what you thought about this webinar. So please make sure you do that survey once you've finished watching the webinar, once we're all done. And that link will be in the Q&A box again at the end of this webinar. So if you can see and hear me, you have made it. The webinar is right here. We are also using a separate additional and optional tool. It's called Vvox. It's an audience engagement tool that allows us to interact with you during this webinar, because we don't want this to be a lecture just as much as you don't want it to be a lecture. We want to learn from you and have a discussion with you about preparedness. So if you'd like, you can join on a cell phone, a tablet, or another internet browser. Simply type in vvox.app. And when the website loads, it'll ask you for a meeting ID number. This number is on your screen. You just type it in and click join, and you will be in our Vvox meeting. Again, if you don't have another device, don't worry about it. You won't miss anything. You'll still see everything right here where you are. But if possible, please do grab that extra device and join us on Vvox so we can engage with you during this webinar. All the questions on Vvox will be prompted, so don't worry about missing anything. Our presenter will let you know when it's time to jump on Vvox and answer a polling question. You'll have plenty of time to answer the question and engage with us, and then all of us will get to see the survey results. So now we're going to do a warm-up question. If you missed that number for the meeting number, don't worry, it's displayed at the upper right corner of your screen. So this is our first question today. This is just a warm-up to get us all used to Vvox and how it's working. The question will automatically appear on your screen. Go ahead and choose an answer. It'll send that answer in. We'll give plenty of time for these questions. You'll have time to review the question, review the answers, and select your choice. And you'll catch on pretty quickly that these questions are not serious. You are not being graded. We just want to engage with you in this webinar. So for this question, have you ever experienced an emergency or a disaster? Now, emergencies and disasters are a little different in terms of their definition. An emergency is some crisis event that we have to take care of and handle and recover from, but we have the resources to do so. A disaster is a crisis event that goes beyond our resources and our capabilities to handle it and take care of it. So you may have experienced an emergency or a disaster, and if you haven't, well, you are right now. With the COVID-19 pandemic, this is a disaster that everyone is experiencing. So here are a few options for you. You can choose any answer you'd like, and let's see the results. And many people have experienced a flat tire, and that can be an emergency. If you're not planning for it, then it can be an emergency and can disrupt your day. And many people have experienced an earthquake. They're pretty common. And in fact, we'll talk about this later on in the presentation, but Washington has the second highest risk for earthquakes in the United States. So in case you weren't prepared for an earthquake, you might need to start thinking about that. We'd also like to draw your attention to September being National Preparedness Month. Now, we think it's important to prepare all year long, which it is, but we want to highlight it during this month. To help make preparedness easy, we have developed our new Prepare in a Year guide. There's a booklet, a guide, and there's also a refrigerator reminder card. Both of these are available to download for free on our website. And this guide will give you 12 actionable steps that you can take to increase your family's preparedness. At the end of a year, you will be amazed at how much you have accomplished. And they're simple steps. Most of them are free. So you can find this guide and the refrigerator reminder card on our website at mil.wa.gov/preparedness. And you will hear that link many times throughout this presentation. All of the resources, all of the links, everything we mention during this webinar will be available on that website. Again, that's mil.wa.gov/preparedness. And that link will also be available in the Q&A box. Final reminder about questions, we will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, but feel free to ask questions and leave comments in the Q&A box throughout the presentation. And with that, I am so excited to introduce to you a colleague of mine, one of Washington's absolute finest, one of our public educators. Her name is Sophia Lopez. She is the Public Education and Outreach Program Manager with King County Emergency Management. Sophia has a wealth of knowledge and information, and today she'll be talking to us about how to identify and fix hazards you might have in your home. She'll also be talking about how to creatively build a disaster kit, because it doesn't need to be complicated and you don't need to spend a lot of money. So now, Sophia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me, Kiana, and thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity to talk about very critical topic of preparedness. Hello, everybody. I am going to try to make this as informal as possible because, you know, I'm talking to you to my computer and you're sitting in a room somewhere or in your car, and we're all living through COVID right now. And I can understand and empathize that these are some new times and some strange times. So we're going to take it a little slow, and I might speed up on some parts that may seem a little more general. So feel free to punch in questions in that Q&A spot, and let's get going. Thank you for joining us. As we figure out, how to maneuver through this new normal, now is the perfect time to revisit and restart your home safety and personal and family preparedness planning efforts. If you're just getting started, that's okay. Welcome to the party. I'm going to try to make this as enjoyable and fun as possible, and I hope you walk away feeling a little more comfortable, knowing that anyone can take even the smallest step, and you'll be that much more prepared for the unexpected. And as we've all experienced this year, 2020, I think, is the year of unexpected. But first, how can you hear about me? How can you hear from me without knowing anything about me? So here's a little about myself. I have experienced personally, I have lived through 6 natural disasters. two tornadoes. So as you saw in that previous VVOX question, the small little tornado percentage, that was me. I like to think of myself as the original, not the original, but this century's Dorothy. So I've lived through two tornadoes, multiple earthquakes. I lived in Hawaii for 8 years. And I lived in Texas for 5 years. And in Texas was where the majority of my tornado experiences took place. Earthquakes in Hawaii, winter storms resulting in frozen pipes in eastern Washington, and hurricanes, both in Georgia and Louisiana. So I've traveled the world. I'm an Army brat. But knowing like natural disasters and living through them, that's something that I experienced and did on numerous occasions before I even knew that there was a workforce dedicated to responding to these events. So, what would it be like when the unexpected occurs? What do you think that experience might be like, right? So let's watch a short clip that I think is a pretty good example of disaster preparedness at its finest.
What the hell?
Emergency preparedness drill.
Oh.
Once a quarter, keep our readiness up. Now, rise and shine, sleepyhead. Half the town is probably dead.
I have to get a lock for my door.
I think you'll like the drill tonight. I've tried to make it fun. Each of these cards contains a detailed possible apocalyptic event. Everything from wildfires to a surprise invasion by Canada. Pick a catastrophe, any catastrophe.
Sheldon, Canada is not going to invade California.
You really? You think those hippies in Washington and Oregon can...
Well, we might have had a little technical glitch there, but it's a pretty funny video to capture the unexpected can occur at any moment. So let's ask a question. Let's go to VVOX and let's see how many of you when was the last time you tested your smoke alarms? Now, while you're going through that, I'm just going to tell you a short little story of, I used to work for a fire department, and one of the things that I learned a lot there is that, changing your batteries of the fire alarm of your smoke alarms is actually something that it's not something that people actually think about often, and it's really critical and really important, and it's so simple to do. You can just do it when you do the daylight savings, when our time changes forward, and it's just one little thing that is one less worry to think about. Let's see how this poll is going. Okay, so let's see. All right, so we have around 27%. The light is green. It's fine. I can feel that. Dinner is burned and the alarm has gone off. You know what? I've been there. I've been there. No judgment here. This is a judgment-free zone. We are all learning. Life is a learning process. Installing smoke alarms is on my to-do list. Awesome. I appreciate that. Hey, I have a reminder on my phone. All right. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you for participating in that. And again, really, there's a lot of things that I'm going to talk about with regards to, how can you be prepared if you don't know what your hazard is? So when you think about, okay, over the years of my involvement in preparedness, well, okay, I'll just jump right into it. One of the biggest complaints regarding the national message, you hear a lot about it. Build a kit, have a plan. What does that mean? And what are you planning for, right? So we always tend to gloss over knowing your hazards. Understand what are you at risk for. If you don't know your hazards, you can't prepare efficiently. So in my mind, how can you prepare a kit or make a plan if you don't have a good understanding? And I get it. The US is a big country. The risks and hazards in Washington state are very different from other parts of the country, let's say Florida. And I'm betting that if I asked you right now, everyone on this call could easily identify a different risk here than one in Florida. But there's more to just knowing your hazards. You also need to understand what level of threat each hazard can pose. It's very important to know and understand that there's natural and human caused hazards and the risks that they might happen around you. Each different type of incident has trickling effects, right? Flood, land movement, fires, earthquakes, hot weather, cold weather, no matter where in Washington state or across the country that you live, you can contact your local Office of Emergency Management if you need help identifying what hazards and risks exist where you live. And to help you identify your risk, I've provided a couple of links on the screen. Here in King County, we utilize a platform called hazardready.org. And this is a program that was partnered into that system. And it'll tell you whether maybe you're putting your work address or your home address, and it'll show you a series of tabs. And each tab correlates to a different type of hazard that is prevalent in the county. When you click on the tab, it gives you information, your level of threat. Let's say you want to know what level of threat are you for flooding. It'll tell you, are you at a low risk, medium risk, or high risk for flooding where you live or where you work, where you go to church, where you frequent the most. It's only for the boundaries of King County, but the same program, I know Portland has a contract with the organization that does this, and we're looking to get ours updated. So we provided a link for statewide where you can find hazard risk identification information, and as well for King County. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Now, we don't know when something like this may happen, but we can do things to help us be better prepared for these natural and human-caused events. And understanding when or what can happen, and then what are some trickle things that can cause, will help us feel more prepared when the unexpected occurs, whether it's something like COVID, an earthquake, or a Canadian invasion, just like Sheldon was warning us about in the video clip we just watched, which is highly unlikely. Let's go to another point of engagement, because we want to keep you on your toes, right? What are some hazards that you can see right now from where you are? So this is where you can punch in some words and look around you and identify, what are some hazards in your area? Now I'm going to do the same thing. As I'm sitting right in front of my pantry, I wonder how much of that stuff is secured. And if an earthquake were to happen, definitely don't want a bunch of boxes of macaroni falling on me. Give it another moment. And sometimes I consider my pets can be a hazard. I don't know if you have any cat owners out there, but my cat tends to throw herself down in front of me just randomly. And I think it's a way of just saying hello. Some folks like to joke that, are our cats trying to kill us? No, I think she just wants attention. But okay, let's see. How are we doing on our Wordle? And you know what? It's okay if not too many people participate. We can go ahead and move forward. I think we're good to go ahead and move forward. All right. I'm waiting for a cue. Okay. So, see here. Let's talk about our hazards. I've come to understand the importance of identifying the hazards in your home. And this is super critical right now because we are all at home. Well, for the most part. COVID is an unprecedented event happening real time right now. And it's forcing a lot of us to really focus on our space, our boundaries, and a lot of folks are just choosing to stay home. Now, with you being in your home space more frequently, more often, think about all of the hazards around you, and now is a perfect time to start tackling those. Learning how to prevent and mitigate your risk to these hazards can actually go a very long way in helping you prepare for the bigger dangers that we all live with on a daily basis. Now, I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom. One thing that I've learned is that having the knowledge, though, can help you prepare to take action. So when the time comes, you take action, like knowing that you have to breathe, right? It's a reflex. It's like, the back of your hand. No one knows it better than you. That's how we want to create this culture of preparedness. Your home is supposed to be where you and your family are safe and protected, but every year, accidents and emergency units deal with serious injuries, and sometimes fatal accidents can occur in the home. So I'm going to give you some statistics, but not to scare you, just to give you a heads up. Just want to make sure I'm not having any. Nope. Okay, we're good. So according to staysafe.org, it's not just children and elderly that can come into harm with things like chemicals and choking hazards. So accidents in the home actually claim about 18,000 lives each year in the United States alone. And it accounts for about 21 million medical visits annually, which costs a staggering $220 billion a year. One thing to just keep in mind, a lot of these accidents that I'm going to go through with you are preventable. And there's nothing worse than being a part of an experience that you could have prevented, right? But I've been there. And so let's talk about, let's talk about some of the 5 things, and let's get you on your way. These are the 5 incidents that are the 5 highest, most cause accidents in the home. Okay, so falls are the leading cause of death when it comes to home accidents. They make up 1/3 of all fatalities. The elderly are the most affected by this type of accident. Fatalities aside, when an elderly person falls, the associated problems are way more serious. If a younger person falls and they break their bones, a broken bone is a far more serious problem for an older person in the terms of healing. Hip fractures are a serious problem for those age 75 and older and can often lead to long-term care needs and serious mobility issues. So here are some tips that you can follow to help stay safe and minimize your risk. Staircases. If you have children in the home, you want to keep your children safe from stumbling down staircases. So you can install safety gates, both at the top and the bottom of the staircase. You want to try to keep everyone safe by making sure that there's good lighting. on the handrails, on the baseboards, in the bathrooms. Everyone can fall in the bathroom. No one is what's the word I'm looking for? No one can prevent that, right? Not prevent it, but I'm just going to keep going. We're all susceptible to falling in the bathroom. Slippery, wet surfaces, right? So your shower should have rubber mats. Your mats and towels should be placed on the floor when you get out of the shower. And then if you have, and really these are good things for you to take to note. If you have elderly family or friends, neighbors, this is the time when communities can come together, share the information, and support each other. Ditch the clutter on the stairs especially. Nearly half of all falling deaths occur on steps and stairways. So keeping your stairways clutter-free, it seems obvious, but take a look at your steps, especially those leading down to the basement. Who hasn't set something on the top step temporarily and then made a plan to take it down or pick it up on the next trip? I'm going to tell you a quick anecdote. This isn't related to stairs, but it's kind of similar concept. I stepped over a pair of shears. There were scissors. I had dropped them on the floor in my bathroom. And I thought to myself, oh, okay, I'm in a hurry. I'll pick those up. I never picked them up. That night, I got up in the middle of the night to go use the restroom. What did I do? Yes, I walked into these scissors and I stabbed myself in the toe because I didn't pick up those hair shears. I had to apply pressure on my bleeding toe and I had to deal with that, right? So we tell ourselves this all the time. Think about that. Next time you see something on the ground, on your stairs, in your bathroom, think about other people in your household, pick it up. And it's easy to use the steps as a semi-permanent storage, but it's a dangerous habit. Okay, let's go on to the second leading cause of fatalities is poisoning. This actually leads to about 5,000 deaths a year in the US. This is probably the most heartbreaking statistic for people because this is the one that affects children more than anything. So if you have little ones in your house, here are some tips to minimize their risk. Any cleaning products, any harmful substances, they should be kept, and if they're kept in the kitchen, in the cupboards, keep them out of reach of the children. Keep them in higher cupboards if you can. If they're in lower cupboards, make sure you invest in those child-proof locks. Store paint and pesticides in garage and sheds that are locked and on high shelves away from children, and monitor children when they're in the kitchen. Never leave them unattended. Labeling all unmarked containers is a good idea. Make sure not to store products in food containers. I come from a Hispanic family. We tend to store a lot of food stuff in containers that aren't the normal thing it belongs in. Some of you know what I'm talking about. That's with food, but think about if you're using a plastic tub that, oh, that's a great storage container. It used to have butter in it, or it used to have sour cream in it. I'm going to store some stuff in there that I'm cleaning or whatever. Just keep that in mind if you have little ones around. Label things, secure it, keep them up and away so that they cannot be easily accessible. Okay. Fire hazards. This one I really take to heart. I used to work for a fire department, and I learned a lot about how innocent some of the actions that we take them for granted. We think, oh, you know what? I like hanging my kitchen towel on the handle of my oven door. It looks nice. It's pretty, and it's easily accessible. I can grab it when I need it. I learned very quickly that's a fire hazard. With over 3,000 American lives claimed each year from fire hazards, this is the third biggest threat as far as home accidents are concerned. So to minimize and avoid fatalities and devastating burns, here are some things some steps you can take. Install the smoke detectors. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Kitchen, bedrooms, and your basement. People may not hang out in the basement, but it's a space in your home that has things in there that are actively working. Anything can be prone to, faulty wiring. Maybe there's flooding, something that could go off. It's just always good to have your eyes on anything that could be a threat. Test your alarm monthly. Ensure that you replace the batteries at least twice a year. And if you have one of those alarms that's a 10-year alarm, that's great, but make sure that you actually have one of those and that it is functioning. Consider a home alarm system that detects smoke. This will not just raise an alarm like a usual smoke detector, but it'll contact a local fire department and help will be on its way. This is particularly useful should the fire render the householders incapable of response due to smoke inhalation. In the kitchen, most fires, predominantly majority of house fires, start in the kitchen. So be careful when you're cooking. Never leave a pan unattended, especially if you're deep frying. Never leave pan, if the pan catches fire, use a damp tea towel to deal with the flames, and never try to put out a fire with water. Have your electrical wire tested regularly. Christmas time is the biggest time for fire hazards. Please turn off your lights before you go to bed. That is the time of joy and of family gatherings and celebrations. Think about what are some risks that you can protect your family from now and take some actions so that we can, you know, have an enjoyable festive time. Keep matches and lighters away from children. Never leave a candle burning overnight. And then have a safety plan. So this is really one of my favorite stories to tell. There's a program that FEMA created. It's called STEP, Student Tools for Emergency Planning. And this is curriculum that is geared for 9 and 10-year-olds. And I tell this because I want people to know you can talk to your kids about this. Kids will absorb this information and they will look at you like, duh, that's common sense. I have been schooled by children. I love it though. So my favorite story to tell, a 9-year-old girl took this program, right? And she took the information home. And what they did in their family is her brother, her mom, and her dad. They made a plan. They drew a layout of their home and they marked all the exit windows on the upstairs and the downstairs. And then they practiced the plan and they identified a mutual meeting spot across the street, kitty corner from their house, so that if anything were to go wrong in that house, they know they each need to get themselves out. Because you have to be a little selfish in an emergency. You have to take care of yourself and get yourself to safety before you can help other people, right? We want more people surviving and so they can help others. Okay, so anyways, real quick, I'll finish up this story fast. The house caught on fire. The mom tried to go back inside the house and a 9-year-old looked at her mother and said, "No, Mom, that's not the plan. We need to stick to the plan." And when they went to their mutual meeting spot that they identified in their family fire safety plan, they found their family and they reunited. So the mother, the father, the daughter, and son made it. So I just like to share that because fire safety is incredibly important, but whether it's a fire or another incident that can affect your home, having that communication with your family and just setting out little guidelines, a little layout, make a fun activity about it, and then practice it. And kids will just absorb that knowledge. So the 3 causes of home fires: smoking, cooking, candles, and then some other potential fire causes can, the dryer lint in your dryers, always make sure to clean that, loose outlets, and then a potential water heater incident. Okay. So choking is a hazard for small children who have a tendency to put small objects in their mouths. Another little fun story I like to share. When I was a little kid, I liked to put a lot of things in my mouth. Apparently, I swallowed a bunch of nickels, and I'm still alive today. But it happens. Nickels, buttons. I think I pretty much stuck to nickels and buttons. But kids will put stuff in their mouths. I was babysitting my little niece and she had a Lego in her mouth and I had to perform the Heimlich maneuver on my little niece. Well, not the Heimlich maneuver, but I took a training so I knew how to do it. There's a certain way to do that on a baby. So always watch small children, know how to perform first aid, take a class if you get an opportunity to. I highly encourage that. And then make sure your child plays with toys that are age appropriate. And at meal times, cut the food into small pieces for young children. Teach them how to chew and swallow. Okay, so with drowning, children aged from 1 to 4 are at a serious risk for drowning in the home. In fact, it's actually the leading cause of fatalities and injuries in that age group. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute, because when I found that out, I was just astounded. I'm not a mom yet, but I hope to be one soon. And that is just something that, to think about, just to fathom that is just a scary thought. Children at that age, they can drown in just 2 inches of water. I mean, just 2 inches. 800 deaths occur each year in the U.S. alone. So here's a few steps to help keep your little ones safe. Always supervise babies and young children when bathing. If the phone rings at bath time, then leave it. It's not as important as your child's safety. Ring them back when bath time is over. Keep toilet lids closed, and if you have a swimming pool or pond, make sure that it's a fenced-in area, and never leave children unsupervised when water is around. And then keep electrical items away from places of water. So I'm going to throw a little shout out to my partners at Clark County Regional Emergency Services. They have this awesome challenge that they put up, that they have every year, especially during National Preparedness Month, and it's called 30 Days, 30 Ways. So each September they put this out. Anyone can play or access the game, and they give you one challenge a day for 30 days to help you become better prepared. So I challenge you. I hope that after this little segment, you take a little challenge and look around your home and do your own home hazard hunt to identify the potential hazards in your home. Let's take a look and see what you might find. And when you thought we were done with that topic, here are some places where you can start. We've talked about a few things that can help you reduce some risks, but I'm just going to throw a little bit more because they're pretty important. And if you don't hear it, if someone doesn't tell you, I wouldn't think about this until I learned it myself. So I just like to share things. Furniture tipping. I didn't know this. If you think that furniture tipping over is a danger you have to worry about, if you don't think that that's a danger, learn about the numbers and you will think twice. Every year, thousands of children are injured by furniture tipping over. Every 2 weeks, a child passes away by a tip over. So think about your dressers. Kids like to climb those. That's one of, heavy dressers falling forward, bookshelves. Kids are curious and they like to explore. So just keep an eye on those, secure those in place. There are brackets that you can buy to secure them in place, which come in handy during an earthquake. And then sharp objects. You heard about my story with the hair shears. I didn't pick them up. I got stabbed. Thankfully, I don't have little ones in my home, nor do I live with anyone else. So, but for those of you who have other people, who depends on you and what would they need to be okay? Okay, so let's talk about, a worst case scenario, right? We are in the middle of a pandemic, COVID. Now, can you imagine if an earthquake happened right now? So, I like to just present this, I know I'm from King County, but anybody statewide, you can look at your favorite scene and just understand the hazards in your community, and what do you rely on, and then what might not be available, right? So let's do a quick poll. Let's play a game. It's a little Mythbusters thing, a little myth or fact. Humans can cause earthquakes. So I'm gonna give you a moment. Let that get going. Hopefully. I hope we have some Seahawk fans out there, but again, judgment-free zone. No judging here. And I hope you're still with me. Okay. So It turns out that that is, in fact, a fact. So some of you may recall not too long ago, a very infamous touchdown made by a Mr. Marshawn Lynch of the Seattle Seahawks caused all of the fans at CenturyLink Stadium to result in such a ruckus that an earthquake registered on the Richter scale. I believe it was a 1 point something or other. I can't get to the exact amount, but I just think that is amazing. So, you know, there's a football game and there's a lot of other things occurring in the world that research is still out on, you know, how that can affect human-caused activities affecting geological processes. But let's go back to our little scene. And now an earthquake has happened, right? Now we're looking at all of the different things that people rely on, and those being significantly disrupted. You know, people not being able to get anywhere easily, stores running out of supplies quickly, ATMs not working, utilities being damaged, gas stations. You know, imagine we have to get out of town and you only have a quarter of a tank in your car, and the order is evacuation for whatever the reason, right? So think about, you know, I try to tell people half a tank is the new normal. It should, you know, for me, half a tank is the new normal because I want to be able to get on the road out instead of get in line to get gas. So just some food for thought there. Understanding the hazards in your community is the base before you can start to really know what is it that you're planning for. What is your plan? Because your plan is going to be very different than your neighbor's plan. You have your own needs. Your family has their own needs. Who depends on you and what do they need to make it through, right? So let's check out another video. This is a quick video on, you know, we have a lot of what we need already. We just got to put it together.
A catastrophe can affect your ability to access food, water, and other necessities. Help your family be better prepared by gathering supplies now. You can even do it on a shoestring budget. A kit doesn't have to be expensive. You may already have most of the essentials at home right now. First, pick a storage container. Backpacks, rolling suitcases, plastic cargo containers, even reusable grocery bags can all be good choices. A low-cost way to get started. Raid your own home. Gather the things you already use and have on hand. Think shelter, warmth, first aid, communication, personal health, and sanitation. Consider individual needs for infants, prescription medications, and pets. Store at least 1 gallon of water per person per day for as long as you can. Instead of buying new containers, use food-grade reusable containers like plastic juice jugs or 2-liter soda bottles. Look for camping supplies like blankets, hats, gloves, canned and dried foods, rain gear, and tarps. Check the ads for bargain prices and stock up when things go on sale, like batteries and light sticks. Make sure you have a safe light source. A hand-cranked or battery-operated flashlight is great. No candles. Pack a radio and listen to local news updates on what to do in your area. Talk to your family today about how you will stay connected. Keep a crank, solar, or car charger handy for mobile devices. Cut feet are the #1 injury during disasters. Protect your feet to stay safe and mobile. Include simple household and office items like paper, pens, duct tape, rubber bands, magazines, neckties, Ziploc bags, hefty bags, coffee filters, and diapers. Many items can serve multiple purposes. Garbage bags can be worn as rain gear, used for shelter, insulation, even a makeshift bathroom. Ziploc bags can be used as gloves and can protect flashlights, photos, and important documents from moisture. Pillowcases can become carrying bags. Other useful items include tarps, crowbars, wrenches, rope, even kitty litter. Store your supplies inside your home near a main exit. With a little time and ingenuity, it doesn't have to cost a lot. Go to makeitthrough.org for a complete list and more information.
Awesome. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I love that we made that with some lighthearted music because it it's, we're talking about some serious stuff and I understand that, but if you can't find a little levity, a little moment to just breathe and find some humor where you can during times of stress, how can we call ourselves human, right? We got to find some happiness where we can, and I'm all about that. Let's do a little test. I hope you were paying attention to that video. I have one little question for you from the video. So we're going to go to our VBOX, and in an emergency, what can Ziploc bags be used for in addition to storing supplies? So there's a couple of options there, and of course, one of them is the correct answer. Well, there's no such thing as a wrong answer. Just don't know how well it would be. I think one thing that I love so much about a lot of the items we talk about is they all have multiple uses. So if you think about garbage bags, Ziploc bags, what else? I mean, tarps, everything can have a multi-purpose use in a disaster or an emergency situation. Okay, the poll has closed. Awesome. 98% of you. I believe that's everybody. I was the one who picked carrying my fish. Okay. Thank you for joining us on that. So next, I'm going to share with you 5 creative tips. We talked about hazards. We talked about how are some ways that you can identify your hazards, and then I provided you like 5 of the leading causes within your home to pay attention to. When I do this presentation or I talk to the public about being prepared, I always get a lot of questions, those hard questions of like, how can I possibly fathom getting that much water for my family? Or what do I do if the pipes rust? What if we can't flush the toilet? Right? So I've got 5 key high-level things I'm gonna share with you. I might move a little quickly, just in the essence of time. So the first one that I wanted to share with you, this is actually my absolute favorite, and want to make sure I didn't run out of time for this one. Okay, we know that utilities in the worst case scenario, so everything you're about to see and hear, worst case scenario, we always talk about the earthquake. We harp on an earthquake because we live in earthquake country, and it's not a matter of if, but when, right? Yes, it hasn't happened for a long time, but that does not mean that it will never happen. It means that when it happens, it will probably be a very big one. And that is what we are planning for. And if you're prepared for the worst, you're prepared for anything. So that's why we want people to prepare for the worst. So if the pipes bust and you can't flush your toilet and we're trying to tell you to stay in your house for a couple of weeks at least, what are you supposed to do? Kitty litter belongs in every emergency kit. It's great for traction in your vehicles, but in your home, if you have a bucket, a garbage bag, kitty litter, and a styrofoam pool noodle. Are you visualizing this? Right. So I've got some pictures for you to show you what that produces. That is a little makeshift toilet. And if everyone in your household has their own pool noodle, everyone has their own toilet seat. You can keep it in the bathroom and just make sure when it's full, you put it in a space. And when we're in this aftermath, designating space for things, it's gonna become a thing, especially in the worst case scenario, long-term roads being inaccessible, trash not being able to pick up, we're going to have to start designating spaces for stuff. So this is a good way to help get around the whole bathroom situation. Let's go to a quick question. Well, yeah, real quick, just because I like the tip that this one provides you. What is another use for a pool noodle besides swimming? we'll leave that open for a minute. And now I want to go swimming, right? I think I've been talking about a lot of pool noodles. All right, let's see. Where do we get? All right. Yes, you figured it out. That's exactly what I was hoping you would pick. But you know, we are in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, some folks might want to use a pool noodle to fight off a bear. I don't know. I'm from Eastern Washington. We don't have bears over there. Just kidding. Yeah, we do. Okay, let's sally forth. Now, how do I store enough water? What if I can't store enough water? So for water, there are filters that you can buy. There are a variety of prices, different ranges. There's one filter that I really like to talk about, one company, but it filters out water for a family of 5 for 3 years. So there's, there's the Live Straw, there's a Berkey filter, there's a variety of other brands, so make sure to explore your options, see what works best for you. And then when it comes to storing water, make sure you use food grade plastic. Make sure you keep it in a cool, dry, dark space. And even if the idea of storing water or investing in a filter is still something that is difficult or not able to do, just know that the safest way to purify water, should that be the route you have to go, is boiling water. As long as you get it to a rolling boil for 3 to 5 minutes, you're golden. You're good to go. And then at the absolute last resort, you can use common plain household bleach to purify water. I caution you to please check with the Department of Health, the website, or you can contact me at King County, and I'm happy to go through the specific ratios. It's like a recipe of bleach to water. Okay, so 5 droplets, 1 quart. But as you get in more larger amounts of water, the droplets, the amount of bleach changes. So, okay, let's move forward. This one is really important. Medication. A lot of folks are always worried about how do I get my medication? How do I get my refills? Catastrophic level incident. How are we going to get our medication? So I can empathize with that. I take medicine that I can't stop taking all of a sudden. So what I do is when I have 5 to 7 days left, I actually can refill my medicines. I refill them. When I get my new medicine, I start my new bottle. And the 5 to 7 days left of my other bottle, I set that aside. And then I continue to do that every refill until I have a solid month. And I make sure to use that. So always cycle through, whether it's food, medication, water, cycle through. Don't let things expire. But that's how I get around the medication issue. And I also have mail. Some of my medicines come in the mail. I'm able to get 90-day supply. I had to ask these questions. I had to have these conversations. You should too, if that's something that you need to do. Okay, this was the tip that someone else actually gave to me, one of my participants in one of my trainings, and I love this tip. So if you're watching, I hope you know that I share your words everywhere I go. She likes to hang up stuff on her walls. Who doesn't, right? And we live in earthquake country, but I want my place to look pretty and I want to showcase my pictures of my family, but I don't want broken glass everywhere, right? Okay, so this is what she did. She takes the nail, right? You hang the nail on the wall. You have a wire attached to your picture. You have a second wire. You wrap it around the nail and you wrap it around the first wire. Now, when you hang it, it'll hang with that first wire. And when the shaking starts and it jumps off the nail, that second wire is going to keep it hanging on that nail. I thought that was brilliant. So I share that tip anywhere I go. I hope I'm not moving too fast. Okay. How will I know when to shut off the natural gas? So with this one, most people in King County and probably statewide, we have natural gas. If you happen to be a natural gas user, you should have a conversation with your provider. But also keep in mind 3 critical signs of a natural gas leak. If you hear a hissing sound, if you smell rotten egg, it's also known as sulfur, the smell, or if the meter reader, the dial, is going haywire, those are all indicators that you are experiencing a natural gas leak, and possibly a suggestion would be to turn off your natural gas. You can do so with a wrench or a multi-purpose tool that resembles, you might have seen some, they look like a little bit of, it looks like a hatchet, and you can use it to turn off your natural gas or your water. Please understand, when you turn off your natural gas, you cannot turn that back on by yourself. You need to have your natural gas provider come out and do that for you. That is no easy task. So if it's in the middle of winter, that is a big decision to make. So please have this conversation with your provider. Ask the right questions on what is the best steps for you. Anywhere you go in the state of Washington, every county has an emergency notification system. In King County, ours is called Alert King County. So what you're seeing in front of you, this is the website where you can go to sign up for Alert King County. And then that's a QR code to find statewide, how to get statewide alerts. And why we want folks to sign up to receive emergency alerts, because this is the system that we will use to give you directions in an emergency or instructions. Let's say the incident is criminal. Maybe somebody's tampered with the water supply. We will use this system to tell you, don't drink your water, or boil your water, or shelter in place, or evacuate. We're very tactful about how we use the system. We'll never bother you in odd hours of the night unless it's an absolute emergency. If you're in one part of the county and something's happening in another part of the county that has absolutely nothing to do with you, you will not be notified about that. Our system has geocoding capabilities. Feel free to contact me if you have any other questions on that. I am happy to help. And then lastly, please stay informed. We in King County, we are on social media. We like people. We don't bite. We're social. Talk to us. Connect with us. My job is to help you become a better prepared, more resilient resident, citizen, neighbor, community member, whatever phrase you want to call yourself. I'm here for you. My job is to help you. Let me help you. And that's about all I've got for you, actually. I did it. I will turn it over to Kiana now, and thank you so much for having me. This was such a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I hope you got some, good tips, good information. I hope you feel comfortable that you know that anyone can do this. It's not scary. It's not hard. It just takes a little work, and there's a world of people here to help you. Ask us these questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure to have you. A few final things for everyone. All of the webinar resources, links, the slides from this webinar, all of that good information is on our website at mil.wa.gov/preparedness. That link is in the Q&A box. Also in the Q&A box is the link for the survey. Everyone who fills out that survey will be in the raffle for prizes, so please head there right after this webinar. We ran out of time for questions today, but that's because there was so much good information. So if you have any questions that were not answered in the presentation, please send an email to public.education@mil.wa.gov. That email will also be in the Q&A box, so feel free to snag it there. Thank you all for joining, and thank you for helping us build a disaster resilient and disaster ready country. Have a great day.